Hi, and welcome to Women in Community. I'm Laura, and I'm here with my friend Christy. And this month, we're all talking about safe relationships. Thanks for joining us. Again, this is my friend Christy, and she is a fabulous musician here in the Tulsa area. She's a great teacher. She's also a survivor of domestic abuse. She's a contributor to a new book that's coming out by Cecilia titled Tools for Ministry Leaders to Help Victims of Abuse. We also have a conference coming up in October that we would love to have you join us for, and you can get all the information for that on the events page of our website. So, Christy, do you want me to just kind of jump in? Do you want to tell us anything about yourself before we start?
Sure. Like you mentioned, I'm a teacher in the area and play professionally in the music community. And I'm also a survivor of domestic abuse, and I would love to use this trauma and turn it into a testimony to help other women.
We're so grateful for you. And it's really, I think, really brave of you and really important what you're doing. So we're really very thankful for that. So we're just going to jump right in because we are talking about domestic violence awareness. And so, Chrissy, what were some of the patterns of abusive behavior that you started to recognize in your ex-husband, and how did that kind of affect you in your life?
Well, some of the things I started to notice were like unpredictable mood swings and tantrums, which is kind of unusual for an adult to be having childish tantrums, but that was kind of something that I thought was odd. He would hold me to a higher standard than he held himself, alienated me from friends and family.
Wow.
Wasn't able to accept personal blame for anything that he did, and then would gaslight me or twist things to get me to apologize to him. He was often jealous of my career that I was trying to, go for. Would belittle me and those accomplishments as I'm trying to build a career. Some other things that were kind of early on in the relationship were sarcastic comments as a way to insult and put me down. So it's kind of a hidden thing. Was very controlling and manipulative and used intimidation and then like calculated outbursts where they were done in private, not in public to see. So behind closed doors kind of a thing. Right. He also engaged in risky behavior like driving crazy. And then eventually I found out about a porn addiction and then later led to alcohol addictions. And then was very entitled, didn't think that the rules applied to him, had compromised moral standards, and then would call me judgy for not wanting to kind of go along with the compromised morals. And then the last thing I thought I'd mention was just sneaky and secretive. So, that hidden relationship at work.
Sure. So did you notice these things sort of all at once? Or did they kind of slowly, were there signs before maybe even you guys had gotten married, or was it hidden beforehand? If you were talking to somebody right now that was, in a relationship.
Yeah, no, they were definitely hidden because I wouldn't have continued a relationship if it was so blatantly obvious.
But I think it's important to say out loud.
Right.
Because I think people think, oh, well, this would have been obvious from the beginning.
Right, and it is not.
It is not. No.
It's not. So, yeah. So those things kind of led to me feeling, like isolated in my own marriage, which is like the worst feeling because you're married and you're alone, and then you also feel trapped. Because we had kids at this point, and that's when things kind of came out more obvious that they, I always felt like things were kind of off in the relationship.
Right. Well, thank you for adding that. So what do you think then, right along with that, are some of the early signs of abusive or controlling behavior?
Yeah, so love bombing was like the initial thing. They kind of, they just...
Explain that. Explain what love bombing is.
Yes,
because we talked about this before, and I said, I had never heard this. So explain that to our viewers.
So that is when someone... just gives you lots of extravagant gifts, and they seem supportive in everything you do, and then they eventually turn that around on you and use it against you, and then they'll pull back the gifts until they need to reel you in again, and then the love bombing begins again. So it's a cycle. It's like an addictive cycle that you get in.
So that's one thing. Were there other things that you think are some early signs?
Yes, being like entitled and materialistic. Like at first I kind of thought, oh, well, he wants to make money. That's a good thing. He'll provide for this family.
Of course.
But then like it became the thing, kind of the idol worship of money and looking good in public. And just a couple other things was like unhealthy relationships in the family dynamic, where he was treating his immediate family, the people that you're supposed to love the most, the worst. And so that was kind of like, just a little moment.
Right.
So, but it was slight, so you make excuses.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Okay. And then another one, why do you think that this is so important to talk about today? Why do we need to bring this to the light?
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring up the scripture, Hosea 4:6, that my people, perish for lack of knowledge. And that's where I was. I just didn't know. I didn't know I could call it abuse because it wasn't the obvious, like, black eyes and bruises that you see in the movies.
Right.
And so I just wanted to mention some so that the ladies can, like, kind of be aware of other kinds of abuse are emotional, sexual abuse, financial, spiritual, coercion, of course, mental and psychological abuse, intimidation, and male privilege were some of the things that, I think that we need to include, not just physical violence.
Exactly. And it's more widespread than I think a lot of people realize.
Yes, definitely. And there's statistics on that, and, you can Google those, or we might present those later in another interview, but definitely, it's definitely bigger than we think.
It definitely is. And so is there anything else you'd like to say before we kind of wrap things up?
Yes, some scriptures that I wanted to share are 2 Timothy 3:2-5. In the NIV, it says, people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And the last line, have nothing to do with such people.
Right.
So just seeing that in the Bible, there are reasons that women in these situations, have to get out of this relationship, or at least separate, and maybe even divorce from, an abuser. That's not what God wanted for his daughters. He didn't want us being treated this way.
He does not. No. Redemption came for all of us, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, again, if you're in the Tulsa area and maybe you're feeling trapped and maybe you need someone to reach out and to help you, please reach out to us. You can go to our website, www.wicglobal.net. And the link is also available. And again, we have a conference coming up in October. We would love to see you. And we hope that you'll look up that book. It's going to be available on Amazon in early October. Again, Tools for Ministry Leaders to Help Victims of Abuse. So thank you for joining us.